Hi, it's Anthony from CarPlayLife.com, and today we're checking out a new Android head unit for the car from Dasaita. This is the Vivid 10. It's specifically made for the Golf 7. You can see from the fascia that it's for the right-hand drive. You can get it for left-hand drive as well. And it's for the Golf 7 from years 2012 all the way up to 2019, so at least the Mark 7. It's based on Android 10, has a dual CPU support. The Vivid brand stands for Versatile In-Vehicle Infotainment Design. Basically, they've done a really nice graphical UI over Android 10 and the car system itself. It supplies with all the cables necessary to install it over your OEM version with the necessary cables. You can get additional cables such as the DAB aerial for DAB support, and you can also buy other accessories like the MIFI dongle here that you would plug into the USB port. Allows you to power the apps with internet and get the best out of the system generally as well. You can tether it using your phone, but I think generally the overall experience isn't that great doing it that way, and I think going the MIFI route with an Android head unit, unless it has a SIM card support actually in the unit itself, it's probably the best thing for it. At the moment, during this test, I don't have it installed in the car. I am seriously considering replacing my Alpine with this system, but I just haven't had the opportunity to go all out with this install. So rather than delay the whole review any further, I thought I'd just go in and actually just generally show how it all works. So for now, we'll just be using the demo pod just to see how well it works, what it can do, and how it could interact with the car. So let's dive in with the main menu interface. It uses a Vivid layer or dashboard over the top of Android 10. You can replace this. You can go to the App Store or download an APK with a different dashboard and completely replace this user interface with something that's a little bit more likable for you. But I'm just going to show you its raw form. I've got the latest update as of today, which is the end of February 2022. So you're going to see the latest update and what they've installed or updated currently. They have recently done a new interface in that we've got a sort of tiled card system with navigation, weather, media playback, which takes on iPhone or USB media playback. You can actually interact it through here rather than going deep into the app. And also any liked radios. You've got 6 commonly used apps at the bottom. I think these first 3 can't be replaced, at least these first 4. So you've got Home. This is Zlink, so this is CarPlay. You can replace that with something else. You can move these about as well. You've got navigation, and you've got app views, which views all the apps, and you've got quick access to car settings and access to settings. You can swap these out, and I'll show you that in a minute. Clock and Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connection, and you can tap this and you can interact with the display. You can interact with the volume. You can shut the power down if you want a nice dark display whilst you're driving, and you can't actually interact with that. You have to swipe up to get back in there. And you've got quick access to the car settings as well. So this is the car settings Vivid page. So this will basically relate to the Vivid UI basically. So from here you can do quick actions to auto resume media from reboot, showing the music widget, which floats over the top of the system. Auto return to the home page if you're running an app. You can change the background to anything else, or you can add a wallpaper if you like, and you can change the appearance between dark and light modes, so everything goes super bright and white and a little bit garish if I'm honest. So I like the dark mode, it's a lot better. Brightness can be done manually, or it can set automatically based on the environment, time formats and units and so on. This is the desktop I was telling you about earlier. So they just introduced a card layout, but you've got a classic layout as well. So I'll just show you that in a minute when we return. And here's basically, you can choose the vehicle model of your car. Now, my vehicle is a 2014. You can choose any car that you want to install this system into. And if I'm going to a VW Golf, they're the dates that I can install, or it can take from the CANBUS and interact with the car systems that way. I've been told that 2015 for my model is just as good. So when I get around to installing this in the car, I'll be able to check if that's actually accurate and can I manipulate all the functionality that my original car system could do. Going back, this is a Vivid 10 model, which is a generic display and user interface product from Dasaita. So you'll be able to get this display in quite a vast array of vehicle models, which means that you could get this display in your car and they will supply the fascia for that model, which is very, very good. It does a glossy black kind of fascia, which it doesn't really match the original OEM GTI version that I had, but my Alpine came with a gloss black as well, so I'm not really gaining or losing out on anything here from the one that I've got on my Alpine now. So I'm not too bothered about that. The install should be pretty straightforward. It has all the necessary cables in the box, the various manuals, and all the guides to get everything all wired up. So I'm really hoping that's going to be a really simple process to install this system, because I really do like it. It's a very nice Android system. So once you've done that, basically, you'll then configure everything. You'll get a startup logo with the brand of car that you selected. So if you've got a VW, get a VW nice logo that starts up on the startup screen, and then you can then go in to the main interface and you can then customize it because it's Android with a different dashboard if you like. So that's the power of having a Android display, basically. So you've got Vivid accounts. It's not really important to sign up to that, I thought, and you've got a fast way to get into the wireless connections if you don't want to go through the settings menu, basically. So that's the Vivid display screen. I'll go back home. So this is the original classic version. You just got a very large Google Maps tile, and you can then fast search to various places, and it will load up Google Maps or any Maps app that you've assigned as your main navigation on Android. And then once you've done directions and you start it,
head northwest on Stanmore Avenue, then turn left to stay on Stanmore Avenue.
if you go home, then you've got, unfortunately, it doesn't sort of bring in the navigation. It brings the navigation at the top, but it's not giving me my directions in that little panel there. So I really didn't find that as a very good way of doing it. And all the navigation is now in this little drawer out the side here, and I really wasn't a fan of that. So I prefer the card layout, and if I'm not going to eventually change this with a different dashboard, basically. So going back to the card, you now get proper navigation in that tile. You don't get the maps, but I think if you really wanted the maps, you'd be using the map view anyway, and you can just tap here and it doesn't actually work. So instead you could just go home. You can't tap on this tile, which is a bit strange. You should be able to tap that and go straight to the app as well. Otherwise you go to the navigation and just navigate through that way. It's much easier. It fills the screen, much nicer to look at. You've got this persistent bar at the top, just like Android tablets, and you can then go back from here to either back in the app, or you can actually go back to the main menu that way if it's the last thing that you saw. You can do hot swap between different applications, and you can quit all those running applications as well to save up on memory. Here is darkness mode. You can actually choose to manipulate the screen display quite quickly if you're driving at night and you want to quickly change the brightness in the car. Again, volume controller, or you can actually navigate and use the controls on the left-hand side there. You've got voltage. You can choose that to turn that on and off. Time and your Wi-Fi and your GPS is routed through there as well. And you get access to all the very quick shortcuts, Bluetooth, volume, brightness, and so on. Swiping back up will take you all the way back. This is another home button up here. You've got music. You can actually log in through your phone to Bluetooth, or if you've got media located on the hard drive, which is around about just under 60 gigs, so you can actually store lots of media that way, audio, music that way. Otherwise, you've got a shortcut link for navigation as well. If you're on the right hand side of the car, unfortunately it's all on the left hand side. It's quite a big display. It's a 10.2 inch display, very nice. It fills the screen. It goes underneath as well, so you kind of can see around here. It kind of goes underneath a little bit. So that's navigation. That gets you back to the main menu. So just a quick look at the apps. I've installed quite a few apps at the moment. You can search for them as well from here by pulling down. But scrolling upwards, you've got a few sort of like sticky scrolling. And the default ones you get are basically the standard Google apps, Gmail, Google, and so on. You've got some DVR if you want to attach this system to a camera. Video playback if you've got video stored on the hard drive itself. TPMS is if you've got any sensors on your wheels for air reduction detection. You've got an actual app that you can then set that up, pair with those sensors, and you've got that all built in. You don't have to have a third-party device. TV, if you've got a TV connection or anything like that, you can plug that in and actually run TV. You've got an APK installer should you want to install any third-party or non-Google Play applications this way. You can also just download from Chrome and install the apps that way. Now I've done that with Netflix, which is totally fine, works perfectly. Everything is all as you'd expect it to be on all the Android systems that I've covered in the past. You can obviously download them as well and actually have them stored on the hard drive, so you don't have to worry about any data as you drive. This will play as you drive as well, unless you toggle it on. You can turn it on to prevent you from watching video, but you can toggle that off as well. And everything runs smoothly, long as you've got a decent internet connection. Comes through the car speakers, and you can then watch some films, just like this one here. And you can scrub. It updates really, really well. Again, as long as you've got a good internet connection. That can also play in picture, but it's very, very small. You can't size it. I haven't worked out side-by-side mode yet, and I don't think that's possible. If it is, let me know in the comments. But that's Netflix. YouTube is very much the same. And this displays in a very sort of tablet kind of look. So that's all very good. Plays well. Again, as long as you've got a good data connection, you can then play anything from YouTube, have it stream, play a playlist, and just have that playing over in the car. It's quite nice, good feature. YouTube doesn't actually play as you go back to the home screen, doesn't do an overlay. So that's YouTube. Again, you can choose or replace Google Maps with any navigation, so you can actually download Waze onto the system as well, and then run Waze as its default map application. So that's possible. Chrome, you can just go on and then browse as you like. You can see here I've gone to the APK Mirror site to get Netflix, and through that you can install any apps that you can't get or don't appear in your searches on Google Play. And just briefly, let's just touch on Google Play. You can just then get any apps or any games that run on the Android system. Anything you like, TikTok, Amazon Prime, iPlayer, everything like that. You can just get this downloaded onto the system. Speaking of games, you can then just download any game you like, use the touch screen. There is a 5 touch point ability on this display, so you can actually have up to 5 touch points. So if a game utilizes that, then that's pretty good. Performance, you'll find, is not too bad. Better than some of the other dongles that I've tried, and all the sound will come out of your car speakers as well. So that's games. Some of the new ones, Asphalt 9, I couldn't get running on this. It just crashed all the time. So some games might not work as intended. But some of the simpler games, like the latest Angry Birds, you get no problem running those. If it relies on the data connection a lot, then you might have a different experience. But things like Angry Birds totally runs totally fine. You see it sort of lagging a little bit there because of the effects. But I think it runs really well. That's Angry Birds. Anything like Candy Crush, anything like lightweight 2D is not going to have any problems on this particular display. Spotify runs the Android app. As you play from Spotify, if I get this playing now. So as this plays, if you go to the home screen, you get it actually now playing in the media panel. So you don't actually have to have just onboard media to make the best out of these panels. You can move these panels around if you want to have media front and center and navigation a little bit later on. I don't think you can't remove the panels, unfortunately, like the radio one. If you didn't want to use that, that would have been a nice touch to be able to remove those panels. And here you can just manipulate, interact with them through either the system there, or once you connect it to your car, you can then use the wheel controls if you have them and manipulate them that way. There's a really nice steering wheel settings area. So if you go into the settings area and go to the car, this is the Vivid specific area of the Android system. And from here you can do element, which is basically to change these color scheme to match your car interior color. So you can set that light to how you like and match it to your car system, and then it will stay and it will save the next time you start the car. Steering wheel keys, as I described earlier, you can then basically go through some profiles and map the buttons to certain functionalities that you want the display to trigger, such as like Siri or launch certain apps. If you push like the call button, for example, you'll be able to map those together, which is quite nice. Amplifier, apparently this has got a really nice amplifier in the actual system itself. Just coming through these Pioneer side systems on this demo pod sounds really, really good. And you can actually manipulate through a presets, or you can actually set your own You can just sit there and go nuts and configure it how you like. Here you've got loudness. You can turn fat on and off to get that extra beef in your system. And if you've got a sub, you can turn those off and play around with the values that way using the sliders. And you can have some presets if you like. Here you can actually change the balance and the fader inside the car. You can actually have, you can tweak the decibel levels and so on. And you can actually have presets if you want to position the music to various points in the car. Navigation, you'll be able to choose your volume of the navigation that comes back to you. You can choose the application that you use as the default app that you want to use for navigation. So that's really, really nice. And you can choose the GPS monitor to just get an update of how well the GPS has connected to the various satellites in your region and where they're coming from and so on. Driving settings, as I said, you can turn this off so you don't have the ability to watch video full screen whilst you're driving. And you can block notifications whilst you're driving as well, which is quite important to stay focused. Extra settings, you can actually have reversing mirrors, reversing volume, changing, parking display, and so on if you've got a parking camera in your car. And then factory settings goes a little bit deeper. You can actually customize it a little bit more, and it just goes into a much deeper level. And you can change a few things that way as well. Everything else in the settings menu is pretty straightforward and pretty standard. To get to the internet and get the internet working, you would just basically turn this on and search for the various Wi-Fi connections that are in your car or around your car if you've got car Wi-Fi already available. If you've got one of these, you can just, these are about £30 or less, and you just basically put a SIM in it. You then plug this into a USB port in your car, or you can actually use the USB ports that come connected to the Dasaita and then plug that into the USB port in here, and then that will then power up. And then all this needs is basically power. And if you've got a SIM card in there, you can then connect to this dongle and use its Wi-Fi and the SIM card in it as well. So I think personally, this is a really nice and much more seamless way to operate an Android head unit if it doesn't have a SIM card slot actually in the head unit itself. Just get one of these and then connect it to your system and you're good to go. I don't have a SIM card in this currently, so we won't be using that just yet, but that's something I'd definitely recommend you pick up. So that's basically everything in a nutshell in terms of downloading apps or Android apps from the Google Play Store. We've covered the various apps. You've got the Files app if you really want to go deep level and play around with either onboard storage or connected storage and manipulate or playback content that way. So we've got a USB drive here. We're just going to plug that into the USB end that's connected to the stereo itself. You get 3 of these. You get 2 of these ones and you get one that's more dedicated to the connection of the phone. And then with the USB attached to the actual system itself, we can go down to the test area. So we can play up the media that way. Plays perfectly smooth and really nice and rich. Got a very nice screen. So you can actually play your media files that way. And we could do the bitrate version, see if it handles that perfectly fine. It's got a 6-core CPU, so it's definitely going to power through some of the most common sort of tasks that you would want to run on a car system. It handles this totally well with its high bitrate, so there's no problem there. It's a Rock chip, PX6. It kind of like splits the cores. It's got 2 certain level CPU and then another 2 others. I'll quickly show you device info just to go through that. We've got the Rock chip PX6 running Android 10. Here's our 6 cores. If you go into the CPU, we've got a 2 times 1.8 gig core, 2 core and a 4 core up to 1.4 gig. Not quite sure how that setup is. We've got a Mali T860 for the GPU. So it's got enough power there behind the hood to just generally run your normal apps that you'd want to run on a car system like this. And you also got DVR function here. So if you were to connect it to a DVR cam in the car, you actually got fast access to controlling the camera software. And you can then also get the camera from them as well, I believe. And you can run it on that system too. Quick button there to go straight into the amp, which is a really nice way to get in there and out. To put them on, you can pin this app to the bar, for example, and then you can get an extra one there. I didn't realize you could actually have 7. If you want like things like Netflix, you can pin it. There's 7 already, so we need to get rid of one. So if we were to get rid of this, and then we could unpin this Netflix in there, then you can drag it around to have it a bit closer to hand. So that's how I've done Zlink here, which is how you go about doing wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. So let's just go in there. This is Zlink. It's quite a old and well-established CarPlay app for Android. Just a quick look over the settings in Zlink. You can do key code learning from any various buttons that you've got on the wheel or around the system itself. Here's where we can change the icon for the manufacturer that you've got the whole head unit installed into. Auto reconnect, if you were to get in the car, you can then tell it a Zlink to auto boot, and then it could then tell wireless CarPlay to connect without you having to manually do anything. This is the HD enhancement, so by turning this on, it just sharpens the whole display from CarPlay a little bit. And then you can turn on and off Android Auto if you don't want to have that conflict with different devices. And if you're in Asia, you can do CarLife as well. And you can change the left and right hand side of the dock for CarPlay and Android Auto. And you can also do loopback as well for the microphone should you need that too. You can use wired or wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So for example, I've got a Lightning connector lead attached to the system. If I were to connect my phone, and once it's connected, music is playing as a standard feature for CarPlay. Some dongles don't actually even do that. So that's now connected to the wire, and we're now into wired CarPlay. So big fat screen. This 10-inch screen is enormous. The great thing about Zlink is that you can tell it to go in HD mode, which is really, really nice, and that just sharpens everything for a much bigger display. Unfortunately, with 10-inch, they haven't reduced the icon sizes on this particular layout. It's a 1280 by 720 display, so it's not 1080p. So I think at just over 720p, it will then start to give you 10 icons instead of 8. So that's why we've got big fat icons, but that just makes it way much easier to touch whilst you're driving, or you can use Siri to launch any particular apps that way. So once you're into CarPlay, everything is as you would expect. I'll just show you the audio. So no delay here because we're using wired CarPlay. Everything's running here as you'd expect. You don't have a battery indicator because we're using wired. Navigation looks beautiful. Nicely coloured, Apple Maps that is. Very tactile, very quick to respond to your touch. There's no multi-touch on CarPlay except basically because of how CarPlay works and how Zlink works with the app. But the device does support that multi-touch, so if it was to get supported in the future, they'll be able to use it as well. Google also looks great, and everything else works just as well. You can see here that it's using the icon that I've selected for my system. So you can go back using the VW icon to go back to your VW system, and that will take you back to the system itself. Going back in there then, if I disconnect my phone, CarPlay should now quit out back to the Zlink app. So to connect to wireless CarPlay, you basically need to go to your phone and then go to the Bluetooth settings and look for the Bluetooth profile for the system itself. Then you want to pair to the Bluetooth, and then once it's connected, it will then connect to the Wi-Fi signal for wireless CarPlay, and then it should connect. So now we're into wireless CarPlay. I'll just prove to you by going into Spotify, go in here, and if I switch this, so that's all playing all right. Again, wireless CarPlay, 2-second delay of that. You're going to get 2-second delay on the calls as well and navigation. So just generally bear that in mind. That's the thing that you just get with wireless CarPlay no matter what system that you connect it to. But connection is really, really fast. I thought that was really, really nice and quick. We're going to switch to Android now. So I'm going to swap the cameras and we're going to then have a go at Android Auto. Right, so we switch to iPhone now, and we can now have our Android device. So let's first connect up Android via wired. So we've got our wire here, and we're going to connect my Pixel 5, and then that's us into Android Auto without any hesitation. Gets us straight in there, and we've got the standard layout for Android Auto with the music system on the left and the map system on the right. We've got Waze as our default map system, so it's using Waze here. And you can switch between the two, and everything works as expected for Android Auto, really. Going back to the apps view, you can actually then go through all the various apps that you've got on your Android device, and that's basically wired Android Auto, all working as intended. Let's quickly do Google Maps, and everything works with the sound and everything. We'll choose our destination.
Head south on Winton Avenue towards Lustrel's Crescent.
So that's all navigational working fine. Music is all playing all fine as well in Android Auto. So that's Android Auto in a nutshell, really. Not much to write home about, at least for wired anyway. So we're going to disconnect the cable, and now we're going to try out wireless Android Auto. So we're going to go into our Bluetooth settings here. We're going to turn that on, and we're going to pair with the unit that we've paired with before. Connect is now active. And then that we are, wireless Android Auto. So again, just to prove that, we're going to fire up Spotify, and we're going to tap on this window here so it's full screen. So we're going to now switch between.
In 150 yards, turn left onto Lustrel's Crescent.
So that's wireless Android Auto, working perfectly fine, getting in there very, very quickly. Unfortunately, with Android Auto, at least wireless, I think, and wired, the media doesn't play through on this media panel. It does on local media, and it does on wireless Android, wireless CarPlay, and also at wired CarPlay. It works on there, but for some reason it doesn't really work. So as you can see, I haven't really got this connected to the internet again at the moment, but you can see that all the network is unavailable. Maps, unless you've got offline maps, they won't work either, and everything will just generally start to complain if you're running any Android apps without internet access. So bear that in mind. Do get something like this. Don't use personal hotspot, I reckon. If you're just using CarPlay or Android Auto, it's probably best just to get those automatically firing up, so you don't have to worry about this kind of like archaic menu, or just get a different dashboard display, change out the vivid one, and actually then run something a little bit more tailored to you that doesn't have these sort of dynamic panels, because unless you've got an internet connection, that can be a little bit of not that nice to look at. Or you could then fire up the radio, for example. Let's just show you that. It does it through its own app. This is it firing up here. I don't have a great signal, but you can then brush through this if you want to tailor to a certain channel. It's a really nice way to really get fast access to a certain FM frequency. You've got all the presets here. You've got up to 3 pages of FM. You've got AM and local radio as well. And you've got stereo modes. You've got traffic announcements and the various news things that you can connect to over radio. And then when you've got DAB, you've got a little bit more functionality that way if you were to use the optional DAB cable to your system. Such as if your OEM VOW, for example, has a DAB aerial, then you might as well get this thing and connect it and actually have much better options for your radio. This system normally retails for $702 from Dasaita directly, but it is currently on sale for $528 for a system like this for the Golf 7, which is really, really good bargain. You can get this without all the facia, so if you want to just install it on a normal system, it would install that way as well. And you can also have a floating option as well for the display too. It comes in various sizes from 13 inches all the way down to I think 7 or 8 inches, and they have their various price differences as well. So check out my links down below to learn more about it and to buy yourself one. All right, I hope you found this video helpful. If it has, leave us a like down below and let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this system, and I'll come back with another video in the future should I have this installed in my Golf. You can check out my other head unit reviews up in this top playlist here. Hit that subscribe button down below to catch all my future content, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.